on the recent interview of the great legendary McG's podcast. McG interviewed the father of the richest man in the world, Elon Musk's father, Mr. Erol Musk. He asked him a question by the end of the interview, which I think you should go and listen to the whole interview, because Elon Musk's father shared a lot of things and a lot of perspective for you to understand the world and South Africa and just Elon Musk as a person and white people back then, how they've been living. He shared a lot of things. Hopefully one of the days we'll dive into it. But one interesting thing that Elon Musk's father shared was the history of South Africa and how much the Zulu people used to be engaged in killing other black people in South Africa. They were the ones who were killing black people more than the white people. But listen to this so you can understand.
History is very important to me, so you can ask me just about anything on most history. South African history is very interesting in the sense that this country was the first in many, many things. You know, many of them are the things that the rest of the world only just experiencing. This country experienced already 200 years ago, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, you know, in terms of race involvement, clashes, you know, all that kind of thing. We are way ahead of the rest. In many ways, this country is way ahead of the rest of the world in experience, you know. So, a rundown of history of South Africa is, in many ways, the meeting of two cultures. You know, the black culture coming one way and the white culture coming the other way. It's a fascinating, and in a country that could really be called the Garden of Eden. You know, this country. I don't know when last you drove through, you know, the Free State.
Oh, yeah. All the time. Yeah. All the time.
It's like heaven.
Yeah. It's there's no place like it. And, you know, you need to travel to appreciate it.
That's right. You need to
and
travel.
a lot of South Africans don't travel that much.
You go to Texas, everything looks like it's dead.
But one thing that I never understood, right, and maybe I can ask you this, is how did a minority, like white people, take over a majority, black people? Like, how did that happen? Because, like, you guys is like 3% of you, and it's like 90% of us.
Well, I don't think that's a correct way to put it.
Yeah.
No, I think that the culture that came down kept to themselves. I mean, if you look at the Xhosa and the Zulu people, they stayed where they were. Nothing's really much changed there. Zululand is Zululand, Xhosaland is Xhosaland.
Yes.
So the white people came to the Cape, which was more or less occupied by a small group of people, the Khoi and the
Khoi
and the Bushmen and so on. So there wasn't, and they were very small in number.
Yeah.
So they formed their little society, and the agreements generally were that they'll form their society and the black people will form their society. Mm. But you must remember that the Transvaal area, what we call the Transvaal, or used to call the Transvaal, the tableland, was actually the hunting grounds of the Zulu nation.
Okay.
You know? Mm. So the black tribes that lived in the Transvaal area in the 1700s, 1800s, they were very sparse, and they used to like, for example, reading about the Sekhukhune, they had never built anything because they knew that the impies were coming from the Zulus. So if they built anything, the Zulus could see, and then they would come there and kill them. So they would live in caves in the mountains in the Eastern Transvaal, and they would hide when the impies came. It was common knowledge that the impies would come up from Zululand and they would go through the Transvaal, what we call the Transvaal now, or used to call, and they would take out everybody. So it was an empty country. It was empty countryside, really. Only up in the north, where you come from,
yes, was
there. But that was beyond a mountain, and so the Zulus left that. But the Zulus used to basically rampage around the rest. And so you take the people, the Sutus, they went up into Lesotho in the mountains, also to get away from the Zulus. You know? And so the Zulus were sort of bad guys.
Yeah.
They were bad guys. So, well, let's say bad guys. So they loved going around having a good time. The first chapter, I was telling you now, I was reading Stuart Tutti's book.
Yeah.
the first chapter of Stuart Clutie's book, it's quite interesting now that you mentioned it. It's very pertinent.
Yeah.
Because he talks about the turning wheels. These are the wagons that went up on the Groot track.
Yeah.
And the meeting of the two different groups of people and so on. And when the trackers, the first trackers in his book came into the area, which is now, I suppose, the Northern Free State, they had some of their cattle stolen. And they realized the cattle had been stolen from a black group of black people that they sent out scouts, and they found in a faraway place, they found, there's their cattle, and it's with these black people who'd come and pinch their cattle, you see, and which is an old age thing, pinch other people's cattle all over the world, But at any rate, so the voortrekkers, they put together, they started training, and they got together a little group to form a commando. So they're going to go and get their cattle back, you see. So after about 2 months, they were ready to go and pinch their cattle back from these guys, you see, who took the cattle. And then when they got there, and they looked from the mountains to first check where these people were in the hills there, they saw everybody was dead. They couldn't understand it.
Yeah.
Everybody was dead. And then they went in there and they saw the Zulus had come through there and killed everybody. That's in his book.
Sure.
It's a real event.
Yeah.
So you understand. Gives you an idea of how things were in those days.
Were they similar to Vikings, would you say?
The Zulus were, I suppose, like the Vikings,
Yeah.
Very much. And so that was the black people fighting each other. I mean, well, not fighting each other. Zulus just killed everybody because they were so strong. And I mean, if you look at the people in Zimbabwe, is it Boselekatsi who left the Zulus? He was a Zulu general. And he didn't get on with Chaka or somebody.
Shaka.
Maybe Chaka, maybe Dingon, I can't remember, but I think it was Chaka. And he took his group and went into the Transvaal. And eventually, Chaka and them chased him. But they eventually went up into Rhodesia, where they found another black group, but they formed a new black group with the other black group in Zimbabwe, which today has still got those two groups, the Matabele and the other ones. I don't know who the other ones are, Shona or something.
Yeah.
So you've got two different black communities in Rhodesia, in Zimbabwe today.
Sure.
That's because one group came from the Zulus. So the world, South Africa has been a war and a strife and fighting situation for a long time.
And Shona and Venda are very similar, like the languages. When I hear someone speak Shona, I'm like, that sounds, So maybe you might be from that tribe as well.
Yes, I mean, but I mean, history is playing itself out as we speak, it's still going on. You talk about the history of South Africa. It's playing out as we speak. As we speak, it's happening.
Beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Sure. Before you go, have you been to the Playboy Mansion? Did you ever go?
No.
Because I know you liked the Playboy magazine, right?
No, where do you get that from?
You never liked it?
No, I used to. I mean, in the times gone by, if you had a Playboy magazine, they put you in prison or something, they arrest you. But if in my young days, if some guy had a Playboy magazine, then everybody goes to go and look at it. So you go and have a look,
Yeah.
And no, but you couldn't buy them in South Africa. When I was, it was against the law,
Yeah. Mr. Erol Musk, thank you so much for your time, man.